Hey everyone, welcome to Mitch and the Kitch. Last week we made a delicious spatchcock chicken. Today we're making some sides to go with it. We're going to roast some Brussels sprouts, we're going to roast some carrots, some onions, and then cook some rice. It's super easy, super simple, just like that chicken was. You kind of just prep them, toss them with some seasoning, throw them in the oven while the chicken's cooking. That's why I love these vegetables in particular. And then rice, you got to have a grain or some sort of starch with your food. So we're going with rice. You can cook it really simply. We're going to add some garlic and green onion. Just kind of gives it a little bit more flavor than kind of that typical white rice. I really like it. Again, it's pretty easy and simple. So let's get to it. So for the veggies, as I said, it's kind of that like sheet pan, roasting style. It's really simple, really easy. We got some Brussels sprouts here. Seems like people love them or they absolutely hate them. I think if you give this method a shot, I think you'll actually really enjoy it. As I talk about kind of the browning, the Maillard reaction, it's bringing out the sugar and the caramelization of the vegetables, of the meat, whatever it is. That's what we're going for with the Brussels sprouts. I think cooking it this way really brings out the best in the Brussels sprouts. You get that nice crispy bit from like these little leaves that fall off, and then you get a nice texture, some of the softness of the Brussels sprouts. It's going to be seasoned well, it's going to look great. I'm really excited to do this one, show you guys how easy it is and how tasty Brussels sprouts can be. So let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of the prep. I got most of it prepped up, but I kept a few behind. And so, I kind of like having a little bit of everything in terms of size and texture and all those things. So we got two bigger guys, two little guys. As you're baking stuff especially, you want things to be as even as possible. If I put these two into the oven and bake them, this one's going to be either way too done as this one's done, or this one is going to be undercooked as this one's done. Kind of the same thing with the spatchcock chicken last week. That's why we spatchcocked it, so you can have it come up to temp at the same time. So for the big guy, I'm going to slice it in half. Little guy, I'm just going to cut off the end, take off maybe a few leaves that fall off. I'll show you just how easy that is. So little guys, boom. And then I kind of let like the first couple leaves fall off. Sometimes there's some little brown bits or whatever. As you're going, that's kind of the easy part with Brussels sprouts. It'll kind of tell you what it wants to hold on to, what it doesn't. Again, another little guy. We're going to cut that end off just because that's kind of like an onion. It's that backside. It's not going to be something you want to eat. It's not going to be tasty or tender. So cutting that off. And we got this cute little Brussels sprout. It's going to taste real good for us later. Big guys, again, end comes off. Let a couple leaves fall off if they want to. Slice it in half. That's simple. One more. That looks pretty good. There's no reason to necessarily take off the outer half. What you can do is as you chop it up, you can kind of take it off and put it off to the side, and these individual pieces become nice and crispy and crunchy. As we check on it, 10 or 15 minutes in, we go to toss it. Some of these guys are done. A nice little nib for the chef there. Get your nice crispy Brussels sprouts and let the rest cook up. So these guys are cut. We're gonna season them now. Again, really simple. A little bit of oil to start, just to kind of help get that outside going. And then I'm gonna season it with a seasoning I haven't used until about a few weeks ago. It's a garden blend. This guy from Pit Boss, again, just so happens I really like their seasonings lately. But it really, I've tried it on Brussels sprouts. I tried it on some other greens. It tastes awesome, and I'm just really liking that combination. Especially for those of you that maybe aren't the hugest Brussels sprouts fans, like right off the get-go. Adding a little bit of kind of a veggie blend that's gonna take off a little bit of that sharp Brussels sprout, where if you're just doing it with salt and pepper. All right, so we got the oil in, we got the seasoning in, we're just gonna mix it to kind of fully combine. I had them all kind of cut side down, but as you're cooking, it's kind of hard to be that precise, so toss it up. And again, this is a point where you're kind of always evaluating. You want to make sure everything's seasoned well. If you feel like there's not quite enough oil to it, there's not quite enough of the spice rub, just go back over the top, hit it a little bit. That's also a good opportunity as you're flipping them and as you're kind of tasting those outside bits. You can taste the seasoning, but the one thing I would worry about with Brussels sprouts is you know, the exterior is really well seasoned right now. If that piece falls off and that's the one piece you're eating and you think like, oh man, it's all over seasoned, you know, just that piece is, but that's the seasoning for the whole Brussels sprout. So if they are staying together, that's a good thing. It's gonna be properly seasoned for you. But we're done with these guys. We're gonna get the carrots and the onions prepped. Again, it's gonna be really simple, just like that, and we'll get them into the oven along with the chicken. All right, we prepped the Brussels sprouts. Time to prep the carrots. I like to do it really simply. We're actually gonna peel the outside just because sometimes it's a little more fibrous. It's honestly kind of dirty usually. Instead of washing it and rinsing it and trying to figure it out, you know, just take a good old peeler, get that going. And as you see, it's that nice, bright, vibrant green carrot that we all know and love underneath. And it's just really simple. You know, if you've got kids and you trust them with a peeler, this is a fun little project for them to get them into the kitchen, get them playing along. Have some, you know, ownership in the cooking experience. It's also typically a little bit more of the grunt work, the hard labor that you don't necessarily want to do. So if you're able to, you know, pass that off onto your kids, I'm all here for it, or I'm here for it rather. All right, so that's one. You get this other guy. And again, with the carrots, you know, same as the Brussels sprouts, ideally they're all of the same size. You know, if you have one that's like a monster and it's, you know, super big, a little bit thicker than all the others, you definitely could cut that in half. Most of these guys are, you know, pretty similar. Obviously the thicker end is not going to be quite as cooked as the thinner end, but kind of that contrast and doneness, contrast and texture, I think you're really going to like it. All right, so we peeled these guys. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. These bench scrapers are awesome. I only have one and I keep telling myself I'm gonna buy a bunch more, and for whatever reason I just haven't done that yet, but when I'm moving to the new place, you better believe I'm having like a stack of 8 of those. So carrots, same kind of as the Brussels sprouts. You wanna get those ends off. Nice easy chop will do it. And then if there's anything else, you know, you need to chop off, you can. Same with the tips. If you're seeing anything, you know, get that chopped off. That's about it. I mean, pretty simple, pretty easy. Got those guys peeled up. Yeah, so that's about it for the carrots. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Got those guys peeled, chopped. They're looking good. I've also got some onions on this tray. In this instance, I have these in the fridge. I don't want to waste them. As we're talking about, roasted vegetables are awesome, so I wanted to show you maybe something you haven't done or haven't seen with an onion. Again, very simple. Cut the end off. Got to take the skin off. Go one level more than you think. I've been burned more than a few times, trying not to lose that outer layer, but you just gotta trust that it's gotta go sometimes. Chop it up. I'm just doing, you know, a half of the half. Because some of the carrots are thicker, I think it'll time out better. You know, if I cut the onion a little thinner than that, I'd be worried that they might cook too fast on us. So cutting it in half, taking the peel off, nice little half onion, cutting that in half. Nice and simple. And there we go. These guys are gonna get seasoned just with oil, salt, and pepper. For those of you who haven't had maybe roasted carrots or carrots in this nature, you know, the first time I put oil on a carrot, I thought it was a little weird because maybe you're used to eating them raw, you're used to other applications. But again, the oil is gonna help get us nice and caramelized and brown. So just a little bit on there. Kind of toss them around. The shape here definitely helps it because they can kind of roll around together. And I'd usually like to, you know, give them a little roll before to kind of get that outside nice and oiled so that when we do apply the seasoning, it can stick a little bit. The onions, again, just kind of a little drizzle over the top. And I'm gonna flip those upside down, kind of rub them in. So the veggies are oiled. For this, we're just gonna do salt and pepper. We're keeping it really simple. We're letting the veggies speak to us, the magic of the oven, getting it brown, baking it off. It's gonna be really nice. I think for the first time you try these vegetables especially, I would try just salt and pepper, you know, see just how nice a roasted onion tastes or a roasted carrot. So I've got my thing of kosher salt here, a little dusting over the top, a little dusting over the onion. What I'll probably do for the onion is when I flip it, I'm gonna season the other side, just to kind of get as much direct contact with the bottom as possible. You know, if with kosher salt, it's a little bit of a bigger granule of salt. If I flip those onions over, you know, there's a chance it's almost like sitting up on those salt pieces. So I want to get that nice direct contact as we flip it over. You know, I can season the other side. And the carrots we'll just kind of toss throughout and the seasoning will get all over. So salted, onto black pepper, as much or as little as you like. I tend to like black pepper. I tend to like it a little bit finer too, so I tend to like keep screwing that thing down as I go, just because I don't really want like that huge bite of the pepper. I just like kind of knowing that it's there. So to me, a nice, you know, fine black pepper is definitely the way to go. We have all of our vegetables prepped. We're gonna get those in the oven with the chicken. These guys will be on the bottom level, the chicken's on that top level. Again, the reason I love cooking these with the chicken is because the oven's already going. It's nice and easy. You know, you saw how quick that was to season up, to get prepped. I'm just gonna throw them in, let the oven do it from there, and then hopefully we time this thing out right. One of the cool things is, you know, if the chicken gets done first, you can definitely, you know, take the chicken out. We're gonna let it rest, as you saw last week. With these guys, if they're cooking faster than the chicken, you know, you can always basically cook them, take them off, let them cool. You know, as the chicken's resting, let it do its thing. You go to slice it. All right, let's pop the veggies back in for a couple minutes. So it's pretty easy to time out if one's ahead of the other. They kind of balance themselves out, and there's always something else you can do with the other. So into the oven we go. All right, so those guys are in. And one thing I didn't mention with that, why did I have two pans? The Brussels sprouts tend to cook at a little bit different time than the carrots. I know I put them in at the same time. You know, sometimes they time up well, sometimes they don't. But I like to be able to just take the whole sheet and put it somewhere else if the Brussels are ahead or behind. To me, you know, if you can definitely cook it on one whole sheet pan, obviously very doable, but it's just a little bit easier to balance it having two smaller ones. We've got our veggies in the oven. Time to turn our attention to the rice. Pretty simple, you know, 1 cup of rice, 1.5 cups of water. That's what the package said. I'm gonna jazz it up just a little bit with some garlic and some green onion. Let's go ahead and get those chopped up and I'll show you how to do it. So with the green onion, you know, take off that bottom area and then kind of look at the top. I mean, these guys have been in the fridge for a few days, so realistically, you're gonna have to cut a little bit of that off. Then you can evaluate as well. You know, this particular stock doesn't look the greatest, and typically that one that doesn't look the greatest also can just be peeled off there, and that kind of cleans up the bottom for you as well. So this guy kind of tells you when it's time and then makes it easy for the rest of it. So get that out of the way. Again, on this one, I mean, typically the green we're going to use for kind of presentation for garnish at the end. So if it's starting to get wilted on you, I would say just kind of peel it off. Make the preparation easy. So that's gone. This guy, might as well just make it 3 for 3. It looks decent, but again, we're prioritizing kind of the nice green tips for the garnish later. And for these guys in general, you know, kind of this bottom part with a little bit of a string to it, this bottom part is going to be stronger, a lot more kind of onion flavor to it. So this is the part we're going to want to cook. You definitely could serve this raw at the end, finish with it, but the greens are a lot more mellow and I think going to be a little bit better for you just to use as a garnish. So we're going to get this chopped up nice and fine. And then you can go as thick or as thin as you want. I'm going pretty thin here. And we're gonna kind of just smash up the garlic and chop it up thin as well. So it's only gonna cook for a couple minutes, if that. So it's not gonna go too far. So we don't need to, you know, have big pieces. All these little pieces, they're gonna go fast. And here, these are all the whites. I'm gonna keep those over here. And the greens, we're gonna chop up, save these for the end, you know, put them on top, use them as garnish, make our dish look nice and presentable. For whatever reason, these guys are like really crunchy. I noticed when I first used some of these green onions a few days ago, it's like these tips are just like really stiff and crunchy, so it tasted good. It was just a little bit different than I'm used to. Handy dandy bench scraper to the rescue. Put these up top. Then my garnish over here. This is another great reason to get a bench scraper. You can just kind of move stuff away, help keep things tidy. Can't recommend these guys enough. Now, garlic, I've got, I guess, 3 cloves technically, kind of 3 smaller ones. I'm gonna show you how I like to peel them. You know, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You could just kind of smash them, and people tend to do that. I don't find the best success doing it. I like to cut off this kind of butt end, get that removed, and then I'll show you what I do from there. So that's cut off. And from there, I kind of like take my thumbs and twist it in the opposite direction. So it kind of breaks it up a little bit. And then from there, it just comes right out, that easy. We're gonna cut that guy off later, but I mean, you saw how easy that was to peel. I don't have to like smash the garlic and then go pick through and all these little pieces and my hands get sticky. This has always been the easiest way for me to do it. Just twist in the opposite direction, tends to loosen it up just enough. And these guys already come like kind of half peeled, but a little bit of a twist. You can kind of hear the peel kind of break on you. Again, nice and easy. Oh, this guy just came up open for us, so that was nice. All right, so this, again, bench scraper, remove. And then we've already cut off kind of that bottom end. Now we've got a couple bits here that maybe don't look so great, so chop those off, nice and easy. Again, chop that off. That looks good. So you could get a garlic press, kind of press it through. You could chop it up, you could dice it, whatever. If you guys want to see what the smashing does, obviously I'm kind of big and I like to put some power into it, so put the knife down flat, use the heel of your hand, smash, and then the garlic is smashed. And then from here you can chop it nice and easy. And just like that, you basically have minced garlic, and it's really quick, really easy. So we're gonna do that again. Smash, chop. All right. And then smash all over the apron. That's why you wear the apron. Protects your clothes. And chop, turn this guy around. And here you're not, being overly precise. We are going to cook this, so if you have a little bit of bigger bits of garlic, we're still going to, get those a little bit brown. It's not going to have that, kind of raw, punch you in the face garlic aspect to it. All right, so garlic's done, green onions are done. What I'm going to do next is prep the rice. I typically rinse the rice. There's just a lot of like starch on the outside. It's kind of dry. Just kind of leads to a cleaner product at the end. You can definitely just throw the rice right in. You don't have to rinse it. I tend to do it. It just makes things a little bit nicer for me. So let's go ahead and do that. For the rice, I tend to put it in just like a nice little mesh strainer like that. This is probably the perfect amount of rice for the strainer. Then I'm gonna go rinse it off, and when I get back, we'll have nice rinsed rice. All right, we have our rice. It's rinsed off. We're ready to go. We've got our pot that's preheated here. It's just a little sauce pot. We're gonna get a little bit of oil into there and cook the garlic and the white part of the green onion first, just for a couple minutes. It's gonna get nice and fragrant. It's gonna smell great. It's gonna bring out, again, some of those sugars, some of the good flavors. It's gonna mellow out that harsh onion, harsh garlic taste. From there, we're gonna add the rice. Then we're gonna add the water, bring it up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, cover it. 15-20 minutes, that's all it's gonna be. But it just elevates that kind of basic white rice, grew up on Uncle Ben's or Uncle Jerry's or whatever it is, Ben and Jerry's, kind of just the box standard rice. This just brings it up just a little bit. We have a little bit of time as the stuff's baking anyway, so let's get to it. But I never quite know in my recipes like how much oil to say, because I never like measure it, so it's kind of just in the 1 tablespoonish range. I think that's kind of the easy way to do it. But those guys go in, clean up one there. Just gonna kind of mix it around. I can already smell that garlic, like it hit the pan. Just immediately you get that nice garlic fragrance. What I'm gonna do as well is I'm gonna season it with a little bit of salt, probably more than I would use just if I was, eating this quantity of garlic and green onion. That's gonna help sweat it out, soften it up for us. So again, just a minute or 2 on here until it's nice and fragrant. You see the green onions start to break down on you, start to get a little bit soft. The garlic starts to get a little bit of color to it. It's been that minute or 2, the garlic's cooked down, the green onion softening. We're gonna add our rice. right to it. You know, now in some dishes, you would just, you know, add the water first, bring the water to a boil. This is almost like a pilaf or like a risotto, where you kind of cook the rice just a minute or two. Again, you're kind of cooking out that raw starchiness. You're getting a little bit of color to it. All right, so after like 30 seconds or a minute, we're gonna add our water. There we go. And it's time to get the water up to a boil. Obviously the water is gonna, you know, plummet the temperature of the pot, so it'll take a little bit of time to get back to it. But water comes up to a boil, lid goes on, put it down on probably medium-low, let it simmer away 15-20 minutes until all the water is absorbed, and then you've got some nice delicious rice, a little bit better than just the box stuff. We got our Brussels sprouts out. We're gonna give them a little flip here. They're looking good so far. You know, as I said, we got these nice little crispy bits. Well, first my jaw cracked when the Brussels sprouts got crunchy. Let's give it another one. Yeah, so those are really good, really tasty. As I said, these tend to be a little saltier than the actual Brussels sprout's gonna be, so if you're tasting a lot of salt, don't worry quite yet. Those are for the chef. And then we're just gonna give these guys a little bit of a flip. And you can see, you know, here especially. So right here, that's when the Brussels sprout was on the pan. It's got that direct contact. It's getting that nice Maillard reaction, turning golden brown delicious. There's a reason golden brown delicious is the saying, because that's really tasty stuff. It's gonna transform your Brussels sprouts if you're used to discussing steamed stuff or boiled or whatever. You know, this is gonna be the reason I really want you to try roasting them in the oven with the chicken. So we're gonna flip these over. Normally, if I had more time, I'd be really OCD and flip every single one individually, but that one went over, so I'm gonna eat it. I got caught with a piece of pepper down the throat on that one, so my eyes are watering. Maybe we'll run a little extra bonus for you guys at the end of this one. Tasty though, well worth it. All right, so I'm still watering just a little bit from the secret spice attack on the Brussels sprout bit, but they're looking good. We're gonna get them back in the oven. As I said, these guys will probably be done before the carrots just because those were a little bit thicker carrots. The onion we cut thick, but that's okay. We can kind of put those off to the side. Something we don't have to think about, you know, as the chicken rests, as we slice into it, these guys are gonna hang out, pop them back in for a couple minutes at the end, get them reheated, and that's gonna be just perfect. So back into the oven we go. We got our carrots, it's about halfway through. Time to flip these, time to flip the onions. You know, we're gonna flip them. These aren't quite getting that like golden brown on this side, but that's okay, because as we flip them, they're gonna crisp up on the back end of cooking here. These guys I'm just gonna flip individually just because there's less of them and it's very easy to do. And again, roasted carrots, if you haven't had them before, it's really delicious, it's really tasty. It's a way to eat a carrot that's a little bit different than maybe you're used to. A way to jazz them up, you know, get the kids back into carrots, liking their vegetables. Onions, that's 100% gonna fall apart on me, so I'm gonna get a different utensil, because I did not plan correctly. All right, for our onion, I've now got my fish spatula. You can use any spatula. I'd recommend against tongs, as you saw. So just gonna get underneath, give it a flip. I mean, these guys, because we cut the root end off, they are gonna fall apart a little bit on you, which is okay. You know, I like that as well. Again, talking about different textures, even within kind of the same item. If you did want it to hold together, what I would have done is left that little bit on the end and cut them, you know, more down the middle. Well, I guess it's all down the middle when it's a sphere, but future episode I'll show you guys what I mean. But these guys are gonna fall apart a little bit on you, and I am okay with that. Alrighty, our veggies flipped. Time to get back in the oven. It's gonna roast probably another 10-15 minutes. Again, it's roasting along with the chicken, so we're timing it out well so far. I'm liking where this is going. Our veggies cooked up, golden brown delicious. Our rice got nice and fluffy, really tasty. You know, the only thing that I forgot to do during the dish that I want you guys to do is add a little bit more salt and pepper. I seasoned the dish a little bit. I seasoned that garlic and green onion as it went in. A little bit more salt for that than I needed, but not enough to really season the whole rice dish. So Another pinch of salt, a couple grinds of pepper, that'll do you right. Obviously I topped it with that little bit of green onion. Carrots, golden brown delicious. Brussels sprouts, golden brown delicious. You better believe I've been snacking on them as we've gone here. The onions, again, same. Really excited. Beautiful presentation. I think all things that go really well with this spatchcock chicken. Let's dig into it. What do you know? I just so happen to have a fork and knife here ready. Let's go carrot first. Just because I think this might be the most different from what you've tried so far. If you haven't had a roasted carrot, it's definitely a different eating experience, but really tasty. Wow, that's awesome. You know, if you didn't tell me, I would have assumed that there was like a brown sugar or honey to it. You see carrots roasted with some sort of sweetener added, but this, it brings out the natural sweetness of it. It tastes great. Just oil, salt, and pepper. I'm really pleased with how these carrots turned out. A little bit of bite to them, still a little bit of softness, you know, like that texture. That was the end. If I got up here, probably got a little bit more crunchy. So a little bit for everybody. That was a really good bite of carrot. Let's try these Brussels sprouts now. I know how they taste, but I'll do it for you guys so you can see. My mouth literally watering because this is so good. Man, that's good. I know some of you that hate Brussels sprouts aren't going to trust me on this. You just got to do it. You got to go for it. You can see all the nice golden brown pieces. You can do it, you know, you can cook it more if you want them softer. Cook it a little bit less if you want a little bit of a crunch and chew to it. These are kind of right in between. You know, you're gonna get some a little bit of softness, some a little bit firmer. Those are super tasty. You know, that garden blend that we seasoned it with. I'm really enjoying that as well. Let's go ahead to the onion. I'm gonna go for this exterior. No, I'm not. You go one layer deeper. Nice and soft. Again, really good. You know, none of that kind of like raw onion, really strong taste. A lot of people that don't like onion, I think they associate that really strong raw onion flavor with it. This mellows it out. You know, I don't taste any of that. None of those, I think they're like Allison's or something. None of those. Just a really tasty side dish. All right, and lastly, we're gonna taste the rice. Super excited about this one. White rice, a little bit of garlic and green onion cooked into it. Top with the green onion. Let's get a little bit of a taste. Oh yeah. That's good. You taste the garlic, but again, it's like soft, it's mellow, it's there, but it's not overpowering. You wouldn't even necessarily like know it's garlic. There's just this like other element to it that I'm really enjoying. It's cooked well. Again, with rice, you can cook it a little bit drier, a little bit wetter, softer, fluffier, however you like it. It's kind of the cool thing with all the veggies here is you can, you know, kind of customize it. If someone likes, you know, a little bit softer carrot, cook it a little bit longer. But I think these are, you know, 4 pretty easy foods to cook up. You saw how quick and simple that was. Just cook them right, season them right. That's all you need to do. So these are 4 sides that were quick, they were simple, they were easy. They cooked along with the chicken, came up to it at the right time. These are some of my favorite, my go-tos if I'm cooking chicken or any other protein. Just throw stuff in the oven, get some rice on the stove. I love to cook it that way. If you have some favorite sides, I'd love to hear about it. Please let me know down below in the comments. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.